It would seem that people in this White House knew that President Biden was slipping, and it was hidden from the American people. So who ordered White House officials to cover up a declining president?
I know that that is a narrative that you love, and
well,
to no, wait,
10 days,
hold on.
he did a press conference at NATO. I'm in it. There's all these things that I need to finish, and then 10 days later, I'm dropping out.
Okay, wait, okay, you're asking me like multiple questions here. Let me wait. First of all, there's been no cover up. Want to be very clear about that. I know that's the narrative that you all want. Wait, no, you can't.
Well,
okay.
I've been with President Biden for 5 years.
Are you going to let me answer the question?
Would you at least admit that the debate was not just a bad night?
Wait. Can I answer the question?
Yes.
All right. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. To your first question, it is not a cover up. I know that is the narrative that you all want. It is not. I'm going to say this again, and you're going to hear directly from the president. I hope you listen tonight. I think it's going to be incredibly powerful and important. The Oval Office, presidents, as you know, when they make speeches from the Oval Office, it's because there are important moments that they want to directly make sure that the American people hear from them. And it's obviously going to be done in prime time. I would listen to the president. And then what I will say is that it is not easy making a decision that the president made on Sunday.
All right. So what we just saw in that clip was former White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, and yes, her name is Karine, but a black conservative perspective, Greg Foreman started calling her Karine Jean-Pierre, and I like that name. So we just saw the clip of Karine Jean-Pierre standing up there and had the nerve to have her shoulders up and talking to Peter Doocy as if she was putting him in his place, letting him know that there is no cover up. And that is nothing more than a conservative conspiracy theory that right-wing outlets like to push. And now let's fast forward it 6 months later, and guess what is happening? Karine Jean-Pierre now all of a sudden has decided that not only is she leaving the Democratic Party, but she must have been talking with Jake Tapper in private, because now she too has decided to write a tell-all book called Independent. And tell me, am I right or am I wrong? Because it seems to me within the last, I would say since November, I know more so since Kamala Harris got in the race, and maybe a little bit before that, for the last 8-9 months, I have met more independents than I ever knew even existed. And you know what I've come to realize? That today's independent, now at one point in time, there were real people who didn't support the Democrats, didn't support the Republican. They liked the Libertarians, but didn't really rock with that. And they'd consider themselves an independent, meaning whatever candidate had the best policies that was best suited for them, they would sway that way. They're not belonging to any party. But over the last 8 or 9 months, I've come to realize that today's independent is nothing more than an embarrassed Democrat who after they lost the election or began to stand behind all of these wacky policies, no longer wanted to be associated with that party, but also didn't have the courage to leave it. So they call themselves an independent, even though they vote Democrat their entire life and probably will continue to vote Democrat, but they rather label themselves as an independent rather than a Democrat. Now, there are some true independents out there that will vote conservative if that flows right, may have even voted for Trump, might have voted for Biden the first term. They flow with policy. But I would say the majority of today's independents are nothing more than sore loser Democrats, too embarrassed of their own party to say it out loud or to even claim it. So they say independent, even though they'll never vote conservative. Those not even never Trumpers, never conservatism, but they're true Democrats at heart. Karine Jean-Pierre is one of those. Jake Tapper is one of those. I even saw, who was it? Don Lemon. You're one of those that try to call themselves independent, but yet they vote Democrat and they support these left-wing extremist policies every time the Democrats throw them out there at us. So let's check out this article. And not only am I going to show you this article, but we're going to look at these 2 video clips, and you won't believe what's going to come out of Karine Jean-Pierre's mouth, as now she's ready to expose what was going on in the White House. Now she's going to tell it like it is and how broken the White House was. And what's crazy is it was broken, and she was one of the main people leading the propaganda. Do y'all remember that X post that was put out? And it was supposed to have been a post from President Biden where it says, invested in America and we love the country and yada, yada. That's why I support this. And even at the bottom, it had President Biden, except for Karine Jean-Pierre, didn't realize she was posting it from her X account while she was supposed to have been acting like she was the president. That's just one example of the boneheaded things she would do. But let's get into this. Karine Jean-Pierre exits Dems, dishes on White House, and missed View gig. Can you imagine this woman on The View with the rest of those? Yeah. The View is so cringe that Karine Jean-Pierre would fit right in with the rest of those ladies who just blow smoke at each other in that blue echo chamber. And then the two Republicans that they have, Alyssa Fair Griffith and Anna Navarro, those people are as much Republicans as I am a white man. They get up there and like say, well, I'm Republican. But yet they never say anything good about anything the Republicans do. They loved Kamala Harris. They loved all of Kamala Harris's policies. They said Joe Biden did a great job. That's the two conservatives on The View, right? So Karine Jean-Pierre missed her golden opportunity to be on The View. We're so sad. Former White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre is making headlines once again, but this time it's not from the White House briefing room. In a surprise move, Jean-Pierre announced today her departure from the Democratic Party, declaring herself an independent and simultaneously gearing up to release a tell-all book, Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines, set for an October 21st release. But before her independent declaration and literary debut, it seems Jean-Pierre had her sights set on a different kind of spotlight, the hot topics table of The View. According to a new Politico report, the former Biden administration official reportedly coveted a co-hosting spot on a popular daytime talk show, even traveling to New York and engaging in lengthy profiles in hopes of landing the gig. Alas, the opportunity never materialized. Yeah, because they could realize she sucked. All you had to do is watch her at the podium. She could never answer a question. She double talked like it was nobody's business. And she thought that by using this tone, that somehow nobody would notice just how incompetent and ineffective she was at the White House podium. She sucked. She was probably one of the worst White House press secretaries we've seen. Jen Psaki was bad, but Karine Jean-Pierre was even worse. And speaking of Jen Psaki, she took over at MSNBC, filling in for Rachel Maddow, who works one night a week for $25 million. And just so you know, Jen Psaki's show was already about to be canceled. That was nothing more than a favor to her for keeping her trap shut and helping the Democrats spread propaganda and prop Joe Biden up like it's a Weekend at Bernie's movie, which is exactly what happened. Now, with The View in the rear view, Jean-Pierre is charting a new course. Her decision to exit the Democrat Party, she states, stems from a belief that Americans need to transcend traditional political divisions and embrace independent thought. These people get on my nerves. Until January the 20th, I was responsible for speaking on behalf of the President of the United States, Jean-Pierre stated in a release. At noon on that day, I became a private citizen who, like all Americans and many of our allies around the world, had to contend with what was next to come for our country. I determined that the danger we face as a country requires freeing ourselves of boxes. We need to be willing to exercise the ability to think creatively and plan strategically. Jean-Pierre, 50. Wow, she's 50? She looks great for 50. Jean-Pierre, 50, made history as the first Black woman and openly gay person to serve as the White House press secretary, succeeding Jen Psaki in 2022. Her extensive career in Democratic politics also includes a stint as regional political director during former President Barack Obama's first term. Her upcoming book, published by Legacy Lit, an imprint of Hatchet Book Group, promises an unfiltered insider's perspective on the Biden administration. The publisher teases a close look at the 3 weeks that led to President Biden's decision not to seek re-election and what Jean-Pierre describes as a betrayal by the Democratic Party that influenced his choice. It also reportedly offer clear arguments and provocative evidence about the importance of dismantling the torrent of disinformation and misinformation that has been rampant in recent elections. Oh my God. From the presidential podium to an independent platform, and with a missed view opportunity along the way, Karine Jean-Pierre is certainly keeping us guessing about her next chapter. One thing's for sure, her upcoming book is poised to be a must-read for political junkies and those eager for a glimpse behind the White House curtain. Okay, this is insane that this woman had the nerve to say that what the country faces and we need to talk about and dismantle misinformation and disinformation when she is the press secretary who spread disinformation. She got up there and chastised like the only two conservative reporters they ever allowed in, which was Peter Ducey and the lady Jackie, both ironically from Fox News. They were the only two conservatives that I know of that ever got to ask a question. And every time they held up a mirror and let Karine Jean-Pierre say, hey, look at yourself. This is what's happening. Joe Biden's mentally declining. He's falling all over the place. The border's wide open. The economy is bad. And that woman stood there with that smug smirk on her face, telling them how wrong that is and talking about how bad Donald Trump is and comparing Trump to all of this crap, to the point she even got in trouble with the Hatch Act for speaking ill against President Trump during her 2 years and 8 months at the White House podium. And so for her now to say how we need to look at disinformation and misinformation and dismantle the machine, we did when we voted Democrat leadership out. Now, look at this video clip here where she's going to shine more light on what happened behind the scenes of what she calls a political coup. Now, the first coup we saw was them kicking Biden out of the race. And this is what she's going to talk about. The second coup was the one inside the DNC that they just did on their vice co-chair, David Hogg, who too spoke out about the ills of the Democrat Party, who just exposed that Nancy Pelosi is as crooked as an S, and that her trading, because, you know, her family, her husband, they trade in stocks. And she wasn't really wealthy at all when she got into Congress with her $174,000 a year salary. And now she's worth $270 million. And they say that Nancy Pelosi and her husband, their trading methods of trading, the things they've invested in and sold, has been better than every single person on Wall Street for years, bar none. There is no broker or investor or trader who has been as right, as effective, and as successful as Nancy Pelosi anywhere on Wall Street. That ought to scare the jeebies out of everybody. Is it bejeebies? That ought to scare the bejeebas out of everybody. But let's check out Karine Jean-Pierre as she lets us inside of what Nancy, multimillionaire insider trading, Wolf of Wall Street, Pelosi, and Chuck Screw and Schumer were talking about to Joe Biden.
Personally, I think what was the toughest thing to see in the 3 weeks was there was a disconnect for me, what was happening with leadership in the Democratic Party and how it was truly, as my former colleague, communications director, Ben LeBolt said, it was a firing squad. And I had never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen a party do that in the way that they did. And it was hurtful and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can for this country, a person who I believe, as I mentioned before, has done more in one term than most presidents had done in 2 terms, historical things. And I was shocked by what I was seeing.
And Karine, just to clarify, it's your other Democrats and Democrats coming out against Biden.
Yep, I had never seen anything like that. That was, if you're asking me, the thing that I saw in those 3 weeks, that was shocking. Shocking. And instead of coming together to really be unified and trying to figure out how do we save our democracy, how do we fight back, that's what I was seeing. And, you know, that's what we decided to do for 3 weeks. And, you know, it was truly, truly unfortunate. And I think it hurt us more than I think folks realized to have done that.
And I know we're coming. And thank you so much.
You know what? This lady is so full of crap. Did you hear that garbage? Now she's still sitting up there trying to act as if Joe Biden had a good term. Lady, the jig is up. The books are out. We know that it wasn't him running the White House. We know he wasn't, like, she was one of the ones, I can't keep up with him. He runs circles around me. And now she's going to sit on that stage and act like now she wants us to believe her. Now, the way she talks annoys me. Now, the way I speak may annoy somebody watching this video right now. So if I do, I apologize. If I annoy people with the way that I speak, like Karine Jean-Pierre annoys me, man, I apologize. The very sound of her voice pisses me off because I know she's lying. And she tries to talk in this little proper way with all of these extra emphasis on certain letters and things like that. At the same time, spewing BS, still trying to hold the line. You know why? Because her name is attached to that administration. So she's never going to say what they did was bad and they sucked and they made terrible decisions and the auto pen was hijacked by Anthony Burnell, who was Jill Biden's top assistant. She's never going to say that. She's still trying to hold the line. As a matter of fact, Bill Clinton just did an interview where he literally just said not only did he not see any cognitive decline, but he said he just met with Joe Biden a couple of weeks ago, and he still thinks he could be president. Well, guess what, Bill? We know what type of judgment you have. You got these Democrats going crazy on President Trump over a ledger issue, while Bill Clinton literally got a BJ in the White House, lied about it, while the assistant who he did it with, Lewinsky, saved the dress with the stain on it. What's with these Democrats and this body fluid thing? Like P. Diddy. Like I said, I won't even get into that. These Democrats are some freakazoids, and they do some wild stuff. From epilator, y'all know what that is. Jeffrey rhymes with McElfreen, Jeffrey Epps, Bill Clinton, Diddy, the Hakeem Jeffries rumor of him liking to do communist-themed freak-offs with Diddy with young Latin men dressed like Fidel Castro. These people are nuts. But check out this. This is really the coup de grace. This is Karine Jean-Pierre literally hawking her book
Hi, I'm
for
Karine.
sale to the public after being the front line, or should I say the face of the big lie, which is turning out to be the biggest scandal in the history of the president. Watergate don't have nothing on this, because at least in Watergate, Richard Nixon had his faculties. And yes, he had revenge for the Democrats, because even back then, they were manipulating the media. Richard Nixon was actually a great president. When you go back and you look at the legislation and the things he did and opened up China, was the first president to ever even go to China. You know what I'm saying? He cracked that open. But the Democrats were attacking him, and he tried to get back at him to cover up a break-in, and it cost him the presidency. But he chose that when he wasn't drunk off the liquor. He had his faculties. Joe Biden didn't make these decisions at all. Mike Johnson, the House Majority Leader, said when he met with Biden and was talking to him about the border and certain other deals, when he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, he said, Mr. President, why'd you shut down the pipeline? Biden said, no, I didn't. He said, well, sir, yes, you did. And when you shut down the pipeline, you actually helped enrich Russia, because all the other countries still needed to buy their oil and gas, so they were buying it directly from Russia. He said, I didn't do that. It's like, yes, you did, dude. You shut it down, cost a lot of jobs. Long story short, but it was her. So let's listen to her as she tried to hawk her new book. And I hope what happens to her is the same thing that happened to Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's book bombed. The first week only sold a little bit over 57,000 after going on every single network, every major podcast, whether it be conservative or Democrat. Megyn Kelly ate him up. He went on MSNBC, on CNN, on ABC, been everywhere. Couldn't even sell 60,000 in the first week. And as we know, the first week is typically your biggest week. So let's listen to her hawk this propaganda guide. Check this out.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book, coming out of the White House, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy? How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does. And here's the truth. And here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is, if you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance. And how do we move forward together in a compassionate way, in a way that really, truly cares about people? October 21st.
Y'all, the Democrat Party is the fakest party I've ever seen in my life. You got these people, the same people. Jake Tapper was on the news going off on anybody, attacking any conservative that brought up Joe Biden's mental acuity. Karine Jean-Pierre attacked anyone that ever brought up Joe Biden's mental acuity, Joe Biden bumbling, the gaffes, the legislation. She stood up there and told us that it was a lie that the border was being overran. Remember, before the Texas governor started shipping them out, she was standing there and said, that's not happening. It's not happening at all. What are y'all talking about? And then when it started happening, then when the Democrats tried to act like at the end, when they were trying to act like they were so much for border control, and she was blaming it on President Trump, how they needed legislation and Trump blocked it. But funny how Trump get in and now it's 99.9% more secure. And now all of a sudden it's about disinformation and misinformation. This party is the party of projection. Whatever it is they do, they blame other people. So again, the Democrat Party with their Big Ten, she don't, hey, I'll side with you. Why do you believe anybody wants to side with you, Karine? Who are you? Talking about people come up to the street, in the street, asking her, what can we do? No, they walk up to you in the street saying, I'm happy that your time has ended there. I'm so happy that I don't have to look at you and hear you speak anymore. Hey, listen, I'm pissed at you for lying to us. Nobody coming up asking her for any. Nobody's asking any Democrats for anything except for get out of the way. That's it. And you got the left-wing lamestream media playing these reports like, oh, Trump's losing support. But then they'll say all of that crap. Then the new polls come out and he's got bigger and better. Notice something. These people lie so much. Whenever they say bad things about Trump, that means he did something good. They even tried to downplay the 4-year low inflation. Oh, yeah, it's at this, but they said it was going to be at this, while every economist said it was going to be higher. It's low, but you know what the lamestream media say? Yeah, it's lower, but boy, those tariffs are going to tear us down, and then the economy is going to fall down. Rather than saying, right on, it did good, 4-year low, great for the country. They ain't got to praise Trump, but they can celebrate with Americans. They don't even want to do that. They hate this man, and they hate our country so much that they won't even celebrate a win with us. And so we'll dance and celebrate a victory of them getting beat and thrown out for their behalf. So, you know, I just wanted to bring that to you and just show you. These Democrats are insane. That's exactly why nobody trusts the party. That's why nobody believes in them. That's why they will not be in leadership and power. And you got Hakeem Jeffries talking about they going to win the midterms. They've been winning all these special elections. No, they won't. They got swept in Florida completely. They've lost multiple elections, but they get on TV and lie. Oh, we won everything. Trump's the lowest rated president in the history. Are y'all nuts? Stop it. And Karine Jean-Pierre, you need to go climb back under whatever rock you've been hiding there under since y'all left the White House. We're through with you. It's over. And I hope nobody I'm going to take that back. I won't say I hope nobody buys this book. I hope that anybody that does buy it is able to learn just how fake and phony they are. So I hope the people that do buy it, read it and realize how full of crap she is and jump on the winning team and come ride this American first train, or should I say the Trump train, head into the golden age, putting America first. You know what I mean? So if you've hung in there with me up to this point, I really do appreciate it, but I had to bring you this and show you this craziness. Jake Tapper #2 trying to profit off of the propaganda. It's sick. But what more can you expect from it? What else can you expect from a Democrat, right? But hey, listen, I appreciate you for hanging out with me. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Most importantly, I want you to be safe and you stay great. I'm Brian Maxwell, and I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.